Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Restoring Human podcast, where we believe humans were designed to flourish. Unfortunately, we live in a culture where many of our modern conveniences prevent us from thriving, but through intentional lifestyle decisions, we can return to an optimal state of health. I am Jarek Bakken.
I'm Dr. Alex Orwello.
And today we are talking about the same thing most everybody's talking about the first week of January, New Year's resolutions, and the most popular of which people want to be healthy.
Yeah, this is a good time of year for people in my field. Typically.
Yeah, right.
You'll, if you haven't already, be exposed to all the marketing that goes down.
Dude.
Have your best year yet.
Dude, did you watch any like the New York ball dropping stuff?
No.
Okay, so like a phenomenal marketing play. Don't support anything else they do, but hats off. That's a pun once you figure this out. Hats off to Planet Fitness. So I think they were a main sponsor of the event. Great, makes sense. But the best thing they did with it, so like there's a few commercials that they had throughout the whole thing, I think, but almost everybody, not almost everybody, a ton of people who were like actually there at, outside at the thing had these obnoxious like jester hat type things, yellow, purple, Planet Fitness all over the place, like
Nice.
every other person all on this, live thing. Everybody's watching. That was a great play.
Taking over the planet.
Like I said, hats off to Planet Fitness. So,
Comedy act.
yeah, anyway. Yeah, so how many, well, you were just saying this is a good time of year for people in your field. You normally do some type of weight loss centered thing around the office this time of year, correct?
Uh-huh.
How many years have you been doing that?
I started in 2011, so I would have done one in 2012, so I guess this would be my 6th year.
6 years?
Yep.
So something we want to talk about from that experience, walking with, how many people do you think you've
Have been to the
helped?
seminars?
Yeah.
500 maybe?
Really?
Yeah, I used to have like 70, 80 people at them.
Dang, cool. So that experience plus, so I've gone from being a participant to then the last couple of years being able to help some other people through the gym stuff. We kind of mentioned it last week, and we'll have more details on that to come, but been able to help people through this same kind of thing. And like failure rate on a resolution to lose weight or exercise or get healthy or whatever seems to be astronomical.
Yeah, I don't think I ever actually learned the exact number, but I used probably a different number each time when I would talk about it. But it's something like 60% of people, their New Year's resolution, they make it on January 1st, and it's done by January 4th, I think it is. And by March, it's almost 99% of people have quit their New Year's resolution. And I don't know if that's specific to health or if that's all New Year's resolutions, but
Sure.
I mean, I believe it. I mean, I would, if it is 500 people that I've actually done seminars for specifically about losing weight and getting healthy at the new year, I can think of a handful of people that I could say have actually continued to do what they wanted to do at that particular time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a tough thing. Like you said, it's good time for people in my field because, of course, how we make an income is helping people get healthy.
Sure.
So it's a time when at least people are motivated to get healthy, and it's a time when people are willing to kind of take more action. But it's also a sad time because, that motivation in that action tends to go away pretty quickly. So, of course, you want to be helping people that are actually going to change. You don't want to just be helping somebody who's going to do it for a little bit and not continue it. That's not the hope. So it is somewhat of a good time of year, but it can be very sad too to watch it all happen.
How quickly can you sniff that out in people?
Yeah. I mean, I think I haven't done much. Just the kind of towards the end of last year is where I really started to do more one-on-one stuff. I guess I did some one-on-one stuff at the end of or at the beginning of last year too. Specifically with that, my last 2017 kind of weight loss seminar, I did some one-on-one counseling and then did a group type thing. But yeah, I can kind of tell who's in it, who's hoping that they can stay in it, but and not necessarily by like, oh, I can see that this person just doesn't have the will to do it, but I can kind of look at that person's history. I can look at their environment that they're in. I can look what kind of their habits of not necessarily eating better and exercising or all the other stuff that people know goes into actually losing weight. But like, are they actually passionate about health? Are they willing to read about health? Are they willing to come to seminars? Are they willing to just kind of do all the other stuff other than the specific things that you necessarily have to do for your body? If they're not willing to do that, then most of the time those people aren't gonna stick with it. And some people I can identify that they just like they like put on weight so that they can enter some sort of contest and then lose the weight for the first 30 days, and then of course go back to their lifestyle. And you can pick those type of people out pretty easy too.
Sure. So I think kind of on the opposite side, since we had her on here and some of our audience is definitely familiar with her, a gal like Lynn. So her story kind of started with a New Year's resolution last year.
Yeah.
And like from the moment that like started, I think on the opposite side, like seeing kind of what was going to happen there, I think that was kind of on the other end of the spectrum. Like she was set up for success.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So I think kind of what we want to talk about here is like what's the difference there? What are the biggest mistakes and how can we kind of be intentional on the other side? So big picture, like what goes wrong? Why is this such a, drastic failure rate?
Yeah. I would say the I guess, I don't know if it's the biggest thing, but it at least applies to kind of what we try to teach. The biggest reason people fail is because the habits that they have before they start this are so bad. And I'm not, of course, trying to judge anybody or put the blame on them necessarily, but just the environment that's been created in our culture makes it so difficult to be healthy that when people are living that sort of a lifestyle, and then they want to actually do what's required to be healthy, even if it's not something that we would necessarily suggest to get healthy. It's just so hard to get away from, like I was just talking about, create this environment that's going to set you up for success. It's already hard enough to avoid sugar. It's already hard enough to get to the gym, the things that people know, but just the other things that come at us are so difficult. So that's probably the biggest thing that I see of what really makes people fail, is because it's very difficult. So if there's not a lot of planning, and we'll get into some other things of kind of how you can fight against that, but that's probably the biggest thing. When I started, again, I was kind of similar to those other people that I described as far as this being a good time for people in my field, kind of somewhat preying on people because I knew that they were going to do something different with their health. So I would have the seminar, teach them, say, hey, this is what you got to do, get them, try to motivate them as much as possible. But how I would try to motivate them is I would just say, here's the action that you have to take. Here's some kind of quick tips or whatever to say, here's how you kind of stay motivated. And I did that for a long time. And again, you would have some people, like somebody like a Lynn, that actually thought about it thoughtfully enough to say, yes, this is my motivation. This is why I'm going to continue to do this and not just make this some quick diet that I'm going to try. but most of the time that people just couldn't do that. So what I've learned, and I'm still learning this. There's actually a specific book that I'm reading about it. But people try to jump into action too quickly. They think that because it's the new year, because this is, I guess, the time of year when change can happen, they can have kind of a restart, that they're ready to take action. And that's just not, for most people, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't done kind of the prep work to actually get to the point where, okay, now I can at least, even if it's just 30 days of doing this, because they say 30, 40 days, that's how we create a habit. If we can do something for that long, then we can become used to it enough that it becomes easier, which I agree with a lot of that, but they're just not even ready to do something for 30 days, which again is, statistics prove that. They stop within a few days. So it's very difficult. The environment that's around us makes it that difficult. Of course, yes, throwing in willpower, or I guess lack of motivation. But the biggest thing is trying to jump into something too quickly before you're actually motivated, before you're prepped and ready to actually be successful at it.
Yeah, that like willpower thing. I really don't like. So, yes, obviously there's a point and there are times when it's like you're presented with an option and you need the willpower to like not partake in that option or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But even now, so my wife and I have this little debate often. It's like putting yourself in a situation where you require willpower is a lot more difficult than, like I was saying with Lynn, setting yourself up for success.
Yeah.
So it's like the thing with my wife and I. It's like if we have things in the house that like I don't want to be eating, but it's there, it's going to get eaten.
Right.
But it's like if when other people, like literally right now, had people over last night, there are like there's an apple pie and a cherry pie on my counter that I'm just like, these just need to go in the trash. Like,
Yeah.
like it's there. And like, I think not creating the opportunity for that kind of, because it's like fatiguing to make a decision like that,
Yeah.
like not having to force yourself to do something like that, Yes, if you're trying to be super strict and you're at some party or at work or whatever, and there's certain things that you want to like refrain from for that time, whatever, sure. But more often than not, I think the best case scenario is to not put yourself in that type of situation.
Right. Yeah, that's big. I think we're just naturally kind of born to go after things that bring us pleasure.
Yeah.
They give us this dopamine release in our body, which gives us this pleasure feeling, which is what addiction is really about. Why people continue to go back to stuff is because that's what they've been trained to kind of. That's how they get dopamine fix. So how they get out of that is they have to, of course, avoid that, but then they also have to fill it with something else that's also going to bring them pleasure.
Sure.
So if we've kind of, again, back to the lifestyle, if we've been living a lifestyle for a long period of time, and then we say, hey, we're going to go in and change this lifestyle, if you put yourself in an environment where your old lifestyle is there, have fun trying to not go back to it. Because it's not like just some mental thing, I think, that's dumb, that's a dumb decision. Like there's something, the physiology of your body is craving that, is desiring whatever that is to make that choice, and most of the time that's going to win out. So that's back to that kind of willpower. It's your will is going to drive you to wanting pleasure, and again back to filling that with something else. if you don't have something else that also brings you pleasure or that you can turn to from staying away from this, then most likely you're going to give in to that.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, going to lead to failure.
Yeah, so I think there's two sides to that. There's the side of like when people aren't busy, a lot of people, when you're not busy, you're just sitting around at home, it's like, oh, like there's food here. I might as like that's an activity to do type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like actually doing something with your time that it's like, okay, if I'm, working or playing or working out or whatever, it's like that time that if you were sitting at home, you might be like having a snack. There's that type of thing. But then I think on the other side, it's also like, yes, you got to eat. And if there's certain types of things that you can just make those, we talk about a lot, this like those lateral shifts of instead of this being a Sprite, it's this stevia sweetened soda,
Right. Yep. And I mean, we're kind of still talking about why people fail and not necessarily what you can do to win, I guess. But yeah, making choices like this, because I'll of course suggest that, because people always want to say, oh, I know I need to get off soda, and I'm like, that's a great idea to do that, but how are you going to do that?
Right.
And it's like, oh, I've done it before, I'm just going to avoid it.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're drinking soda again.
Yeah.
So what's your plan? Like, why did it fail the first time to just completely avoid it? Why didn't it become a habit? And again, it's just, if you just deprive your body of something without filling it with something else, most likely you're going to fail.
Yeah.
So then I suggest, well, how about trying something like Zevia?
Yeah.
But they're used to drinking soda, and then they go to a Zevia, and it's terrible to them.
Yeah.
Right? So then they give up.
Yeah.
And they just go to try to avoid it. Now this is, I haven't had a pop, I don't know how long, but I'm sure it would be awful tasting to me.
Oh, like you're saying, high fructose corn syrup soda.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that now, from what I can remember, because I used to drink a lot of soda, that tastes exactly like that.
Oh,
so
dude,
things change, but we just have to be committed enough to actually allow the changes to happen in the body.
Yeah. So I think you're kind of saying how we're talking about how things fail. The opposite side of it is like setting up that environment for success. So what does that look like? That looks like, if you are married, man, I know it's difficult, but if you can like be one with your partner in the home, that's huge, because it's like you're eating your salmon and salad and they're chomping on the pepperoni pizza. Like that's hard.
Yeah, that is significantly hard. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, so it's like that's one example, but like a huge thing in granted, this is not the only way, this is the way that we do it, but like having the like-minded community of people around you is a big deal. And so we find that people here, people at the gym, and like being able to share those experiences with other people is a big deal.
Yeah. I used to, at those weight loss workshops that I would do, of course, try to give people action steps at the end of it. And one of the main action steps that they would have to do, we would give them all a garbage sack when they left, and they would have to go home and they would have to empty out their cabinets, throw away all the potential dangerous foods. Some of them would do it. Obviously, those are probably the people that were the most successful.
Sure.
Some of them would think, well, I've spent money on that,
right,
so I'm not going to waste it, instead of saying, if I eat it, I'm probably going to get sick and have to spend more money later on. From what it's going to lead to in my body. But one of the things that kept people from doing that, as opposed to just the money thing, was, well, my husband eats this, or my kids eat this,
right?
So of course I'm going to keep it in, but I'm not going to eat it. Some people can do that, but again, when we're talking about setting ourselves up for the best option to be successful, getting rid of anything that's going to tempt you is always going to be the best.
Yeah. What else as far as?
Well, what I found, again, if somebody is going to be successful at making a change, four things, and I learned this from our friend Jeff Newbern,
Oh.
who does some coaching for me. He kind of came up with, I believe he came up with this, and it works out as a Venn diagram. So if I had something to, if I was prepared, I would have showed you a Venn diagram. Basically, being in the middle is kind of the person that's going to be the most successful. And I might even forget one of the four. But basically, you need some sort of teaching.
It's like a double Venn diagram.
Yeah.
So like there's the
There's
center,
four circles.
the center of four quadrants.
Four circles. You need some sort of teaching. So basically, you have to be continually educating yourself. So, of course, like a seminar would be kind of a start of that, but a seminar is also one of the four. So some sort of big teaching where you come and learn from an expert. They give you all the ideas that you need. They give you the motivation that you need, kind of rah-rah type stuff, so you're ready to go. But then you can't continue with that. You have to keep filling yourself up with information. So that's reading articles, that's listening to podcasts, that's reading books, whatever it is. So those are kind of the two. But then you also need coaching. So you need somebody for coaching as far as continued education, but also for accountability, somebody that's going to push you, so why personal trainers have been so effective over the years. So accountability, keeping us motivated in a sense. But then the fourth one is what you just talked about, is kind of a support group. You need to be doing it with other people. You need to be doing it in community for that accountability thing. But also there's just something about, doing it together that actually motivates us. So
Yeah.
Hearing somebody else's success motivates us to continue. Hearing somebody else's failure allows us to relate and be okay even if we're failing, because other people are, of course, it just lets us know that we're not on our own and this is something that is difficult, but we're doing this together so we can continue to push through. So those are the people that really are the most successful, or if they are able to have those four things. And then as you get rid of one of those four, multiple of those four, you're going to be less and less successful.
So real quick, what were the four again?
So there's teaching. There's some sort of a big seminar for more teaching, but also like kind of motivate yourself. There is coaching, and then there's support, doing it in community. Those are kind of the four that are there.
Cool. That's, yeah, definitely. I feel like, I feel like observationally I can see that over the past few years of my life, and it's like each of those types of things have played a specific role. Education I've sought out myself, going to like seeking something from somebody greater than me, having coaches and stuff, as well as then just peers.
Yeah, so I mean you can do that like we recommended in the last show, some sort of challenge that hopefully has coaches involved as helping you along the way. You're doing it in a group. Again, you're not just all about yourself. You're whether it's exercising in a group or doing meal planning with a group, whatever it is. But then you're also taking the responsibility to continually educate yourself.
Yeah.
That's going to be the best way to do it.
Yeah. So thinking back to like more than the last 4.5 years, just about exactly. Today's Jovi's 4.5 birthday. She's 4.5 today. That's about when I started all this business.
Nice.
Thinking before that, like the things that caused me to fail, because I had made attempts to do things in the past. There's kind of two or three things I can think of. One being, we haven't really said, we've kind of beat around the bush with this, but one being like having a diet mindset and not like a lifestyle mindset. Thinking that, okay, if I commit hard for, whatever, I've definitely tried like P90X or whatever. It's like, dude, if I can make it through 90 days, I can just go back to my regular stuff, I'll be jacked and like living large. That mindset definitely doesn't work.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would often do is, well, okay, so I would say number 2 would just be the lack of that education piece, and just like, you do whatever like is easy to find, easy to see, and at that point, like, there's been phenomenal leaps forward in the past, 5 to 10 years with the internet, for sure. But like, some of the stuff that I go to now, like, didn't even exist like 5 years ago,
Yeah.
So just having like high quality education and good information is huge, because it's like people might think they're eating healthy, and it's like the low fat, like, let's go as little calories as possible, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So lack of high quality information. And then a third one that I often did was thinking that exercise was like the answer.
Yeah.
Because I remember the year, this will bring back some memories. The year that I did start doing CrossFit with Justin, that January, February, me and a group of dudes were Planet Fitness members. And so, like, I had a little bit of strength and conditioning background from high school and stuff. And so went and, squatted on the Smith machine and did some lat pulls and that kind of stuff. But it's like, yeah, I might have been a little stronger because of that, but as far as a big lifestyle change, just lifting some weights wasn't gonna cut it,
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, maybe that'll be what we talk about on the next show. Is
trying to just give a big picture view here. And like I said, all of January, this is kind of what we're focused on, trying to help those of you who are kind of in this boat of wanting to create change, and how to do it. So, yeah, there's a bunch of mistakes, hopefully some helpful stuff there. But yeah, for the next few weeks, we're going to be breaking those things down kind of in more detail.
Right, yeah, so I would just encourage you to think about those 4 things that we talked about. If you are planning to make a New Year's resolution, specifically if it has to do with health, and if you don't know how to find those 4 things, then let us know, and, on our Facebook page or however else they can contact us. You know more about that than I do. We are willing to help in any way that we can.
I think I actually set us up on Instagram for people to even call and email. I don't know. I think I did that right. But anyway, yeah, that's always there too. But any message, we're going to see it. Yeah, for sure. Cool. As always, brought to you by Great River Family Chiropractic. This nice enclosure from the cold air outside that we're currently standing in. You can receive a free chiropractic consultation. All you have to do is visit greatriverfamilychiropractic.com/restoringhuman. Put some information in there, and you can come in.
Sweet.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Catch you next week.